Most people searching for emeralds in rivers are chasing the wrong clues. Geologists say emeralds form only when beryllium-rich fluids collide with chromium-loaded rocks, a geological handshake that is rarer than gold itself. Yet the 5 ugly rocks that signal real emerald deposits are almost always ignored, scattered in plain sight, while fortunes are left in the mud. If you have ever wondered how professionals uncover genuine emeralds where others just see ordinary stone, this is the map you have never been shown. But the most shocking part? Spotting these costly mistakes is only step 1, and what happens next will change the way you see every riverbed forever. Emeralds do not just appear by chance. Their birth depends on a rare collision deep underground. A chemical handshake between beryllium and chromium. For this to happen, 2 unlikely ingredients must meet under just the right conditions. Beryllium travels through hot, pressurized fluids rising from granitic rocks, while chromium stays locked inside dark, flaky schist. Only when these fluids force their way into fractures in the schist, at pressures between 7 and 11.5 kilobars, and temperatures from 500 to 800 degrees Celsius, does the reaction begin. This narrow window is like a secret recipe. Too cool, and nothing forms. Too hot, and the chemistry falls apart. The result, if everything lines up, is the growth of emerald crystals inside veins and pockets, often hidden from view until erosion sets them free. Most rivers never see this handshake at all. Only a handful of places in the world have both the right ingredients and the violent geological forces to bring them together. That is why emeralds are far rarer than gold, and why the rocks that signal their presence, like black schist or rusty quartz, are so important to recognize. Each stone on the riverbed tells a story about what happened deep in the earth, and understanding that story is the first step toward finding real emeralds where others see only mud and gravel. Under a microscope, every emerald tells the story of its birth. Certified graders in Antwerp, the heart of the global gem trade, rely on these hidden details to separate true emeralds from clever fakes. They search for what they call a garden, a miniature landscape of inclusions trapped inside the stone. These tiny features, like black carbon threads, 3-phase bubbles, or flecks of chrome-bearing minerals, act as fingerprints. Each one points directly to the rock where the emerald formed. A Colombian emerald often reveals wisps of dark shale or carbon, proof it grew inside black schist deep underground. Stones from Zambia or North Carolina show a different pattern, clearer, with flashes of mica or traces of feldspar, matching their pegmatite origins. For graders, these inclusions are more than flaws. They are the evidence that links a gem to its geological roots. At 10 times magnification, or even 60 times magnification, the difference between a river-worn emerald and a piece of green glass becomes obvious. Glass shows swirling bubbles or smooth, empty stretches. An emerald always carries its history, layered gardens, angular fractures, or the subtle shimmer of chromium that only forms in the right host rock. This forensic approach is why a single inclusion can raise or lower a stone's value by thousands of dollars. It is also the reason professional gem hunters trust their loops as much as their hammers. Inclusions bridge the gap between laboratory science and the muddy banks of a creek. When you learn to spot these fingerprints, you are reading the Earth's own record. It is evidence that the ugly rock in your hand might just be the start of a fortune. Black schist is where the hunt for emeralds truly begins. This dark, flaky rock often sits ignored at the bottom of creek beds, but it holds the first real clue. Schist forms under intense heat and pressure, transforming ordinary mudstone or shale into a layered, shiny surface packed with tiny mica flakes. When beryllium-rich fluids push through these rocks, they carry the raw ingredients for emeralds. The schist's foliation, those thin crumbling sheets, gives these fluids the perfect pathway to deposit new minerals. If you find a chunk that breaks into plates and glints in the sun, you are holding the same type of host rock that cradled emeralds beneath Columbia's Muzo mines, or North Carolina's Hiddenite district. But schist alone is not enough. The next sign to watch for is rusty quartz. These milky white or gray stones stand out in river gravel, not because they are pretty, but because they are stained by iron. That rusty red or brown coating comes from oxidized iron minerals, left behind as ancient hydrothermal veins cooled and cracked. In emerald country, those veins once carried beryllium through the Earth's crust, cutting across schist and leaving quartz behind as a trail marker. Quartz veins are hard, Mohs 7 on the hardness scale, and often break with a glassy conchoidal fracture. If you spot a fist-sized chunk with rusty streaks or patches, you are likely near the kind of fracture where emeralds could have formed. These two rocks, black schist and rusty quartz, are the foundation of any serious emerald search. They do not guarantee a find, but they narrow the odds. Most rivers, even those filled with interesting stones, will never yield an emerald because the right chemistry and geology just are not there. That is why it is important to know your local bedrock. If the upstream hills are made of granite, sandstone, or plain shale, the odds drop to zero. But if you are in a region known for metamorphic belts or old pegmatite veins, every piece of schist or iron-stained quartz in the creek is worth a second look. Before diving deeper into the world of indicator rocks, remember, emeralds are rare, and not every river can produce them. These clues are about stacking the odds in your favor, not making empty promises. The real adventure starts when you pick up a piece of schist, run your thumb across the flaky surface, and realize you are holding a piece of the Earth's hidden blueprint for treasure. Mica books catch the light in a way no other river rock can. When you split open a chunk of gravel and find thin, silvery sheets stacked like pages, you are holding evidence of deep metamorphic pressure, exactly the environment where emeralds can grow. Mica, whether muscovite or biotite, forms in layers that flex and bend without breaking. A simple test. Peel a flake from the edge and watch it bend, not snap. This flexibility is a hallmark of high-grade metamorphic zones, the same zones that force beryllium and chromium together to make emeralds. In creek beds, mica books often show up as small, glimmering fragments mixed with schist and quartz. The more abundant and larger the mica, the closer you are to the pressure cooker conditions that favor gem formation. Next comes feldspar, but not the hard, blocky crystals you might expect. Instead, look for feldspar that is breaking down, chalky white, powdery to the touch, sometimes so soft it leaves dust on your fingers. This is kaolinized feldspar, the result of long exposure to water and weather. In pegmatite veins, feldspar acts as a cradle for beryllium minerals. As the feldspar decomposes, it releases kaolin clay and sometimes exposes tiny beryl crystals hiding inside. The best test is tactile. Rub a piece between your fingers. True, kaolinized feldspar feels almost soapy, and a firm press will leave a white streak on your skin. This is the same alteration process that liberated emeralds into the rivers of North Carolina and Zambia. If you find both mica books and decomposing feldspar in the same gravel bar, you are standing in the right kind of geologic neighborhood. These two rocks add vital clues to your field checklist. Mica books signal the right pressure and temperature, and kaolinized feldspar points to beryllium-rich pegmatites breaking down nearby. Together with schisty and rusty quartz, they help you build a layered story from the riverbed up. But not every green rock is a prize. Some stones, like serpentine, can fool even seasoned hunters. Before chasing every splash of color, it pays to know the difference between a true indicator and a false alarm. Green stones in a creek can trigger a rush of excitement, but not every flash of color means a payday. Serpentine is the most common imposter, a dull, waxy rock that often fools beginners and even seasoned hunters. It shows up in river gravel, on dry terraces, and along old road cuts, especially where ultramafic rocks break down. The surface feels greasy, not glassy. If you run a knife across it, serpentine scratches easily. Its hardness is between 3 and 4 on the Mohs scale, far below emerald's 7.5 to 8. A veteran prospector in North Carolina once spent an entire summer hauling buckets of green stones from a creekside terrace. He swore he had struck it rich. When he finally brought his haul to a local gem lab, the verdict was quick: serpentine, not emerald. The disappointment stung, but the lesson stuck. Under a loupe, serpentine reveals fibrous or scaly textures, sometimes with a silky sheen. True emerald, by contrast, shows sharp crystal faces and a crisp, glassy luster. Heft is another clue. Serpentine feels lighter in the hand than denser emerald, and its surface soaks up a drop of mineral oil, turning darker and greasy. Emerald resists, staying bright and clear. For those hunting in dry gullies or on river terraces, the rules do not change. Indicator rocks like schist, mica, and feldspar can all be found above the waterline, mixed into old gravel benches or exposed in road cuts after a rain. The absence of running water does not mean the absence of clues. It just means a need for sharper observation. Check the ground for green stones, but always test before you celebrate. The fog test and the oil test are simple and non-destructive ways to separate serpentine from emerald. Breathe on the stone. Emerald fogs and clears slowly, while serpentine clears almost at once. A dab of oil makes emerald shine, but leaves serpentine looking dull and patchy. False positives waste time and hope. A rare emerald can be worth hundreds or even thousands per carat, while serpentine has little value beyond its looks. That is why professionals treat every green rock with suspicion until it passes a series of checks. In the next segment, you will see exactly how to use these tests in the field, so you can avoid the heartbreak and focus on the real treasure. A true emerald stands up to scrutiny, even in the field. The fastest way to separate a promising green stone from a worthless lookalike is with two simple tests: the fog test and the oil test. Both are safe, non-destructive, and take less than a minute. Start with a clean, dry stone. No need for fancy tools. Just your breath and a drop of mineral oil. Hold the stone close and breathe on it, like fogging a mirror. Watch how the mist behaves. On a real emerald, the fog lingers, then clears slowly, usually in 3 to 5 seconds. That is because emeralds conduct heat well, but not instantly. Serpentine or green glass, on the other hand, lose the fog almost as fast as you breathe out. Their surfaces cool and warm up in a flash, clearing in under a second. This simple difference in thermal conductivity is a field prospector's secret. For the oil test, place a tiny drop of mineral oil on the stone's surface and gently rub it in. A genuine emerald responds by becoming more transparent. Its color looks deeper, and the internal garden of inclusions becomes easier to see. That is due to the way oil matches the refractive index of emerald, reducing surface scattering and letting more light pass through. Serpentine, in contrast, soaks up the oil unevenly and turns dark and greasy, while glass just beads up and stays unchanged. Wipe the stone clean and check again. An emerald stays crisp and bright, while the fakes often look dull or patchy. These quick tests will not damage your find, and they work right by the river or on a tailgate. If a stone passes both, it is worth a closer look with a loupe or at a gem lab. Most green rocks fail at the first breath. Every so often, a stubborn fog and a sudden glow under oil hint at something rare. That is when patience pays off and the real decision begins. Is this just another pretty stone, or the start of a life-changing discovery? A beginner's kit for emerald hunting doesn't require a big investment, but it pays to have the right tools on hand. At minimum, a 10 times loop for spotting inclusions, a streak plate for testing hardness, a small bottle of mineral oil, and a digital scale with 0.01 gram precision cover most field scenarios. For those aiming to push further, a pocket refractometer and a Chelsea filter add another layer of confirmation, but these aren't essential for a first trip. The total cost for these basics stays under $120, less than the price of a single mid-grade emerald. It is easy to get swept up in the excitement of a bright green find, but even after a stone passes the fog test and the oil test, most river emeralds are low grade. High-quality faceted emeralds from Colombia or Zambia can fetch $500,000 to $50,000 per carat at auction. In contrast, most raw stones pulled from American creeks fall in the $10 to $100 per carat range, and that is before cutting, grading, or certification. For comparison, gold sells for about $80 per gram, so a single carat of fine emerald can be worth more than 15 grams of gold, but only if it meets strict clarity and color standards. Before sending any find to a laboratory or a gem dealer, it is important to set realistic expectations. The vast majority of stones found in the wild will be included, cloudy or too small for jewelry. Certification costs can run $75 to $200 per stone, and not every piece will justify that expense. The real value in field prospecting comes from learning to read the rocks, building a collection of genuine indicators, and occasionally turning up a specimen that is worth a closer look. With a basic kit and a clear sense of the odds, every trip to the river becomes a lesson in geology and patience, not just a chase for instant riches. Emeralds remain rare, hidden by geology, not by luck. As prospectors flock to rivers with newfound knowledge, only a fraction will ever glimpse green beryl. Today, demand for gems outpaces supply, and clarity in what you find matters more than ever. The real prize isn't just buried treasure, it's learning to see value where others see only stone. Share your discoveries below, and let curiosity lead you further.